Hello, Music Multiverse listeners. Welcome to Beyond Your Radio. It's that time again. We're crossing the northern border for another round of albums from the Leaf. That, of course, refers to the Canadian flag, those lovely apologizing Canucks, and their history of great music for the world. Welcome to Albums from the Leaf 2024. This is episode 4. As always, it can be any music genre or style. On the panel tonight, the woman who might agree with Jan Arden that if wine is fruit, then vodka is a vegetable. Damn, Deb Armitage Hicks Maloney. Behind every great man, and that's tonight, is a woman rolling her eyes. Susie Q. So here's how it was supposed to go. Jeff Young couldn't be with us today due to an accident in Florida. Nothing major, anything. But he was supposed to be the summer of '69, and even though he wasn't born then. And that was supposed to lead into the fact that, you know what? It's real important, that number right now, because that's how many subscribers we have. That's right. We've hit the beautiful number in subscribers. So all this oral work is really paying off. Reminds me, if you haven't subscribed, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice, haven't you? That from Neil Peart of Rush. So choose to join us. Hit subscribe. For those that have, are you stalking me? Because that would be great. That would be super. And that's from Ryan Reynolds. That's a quote. A couple Canadians there. Now, what Canadian album treats did our panelists bring? Let's start with Deb.
Okay. Well, the band that I started with is Steppenwolf.
Nice.
Yes. I found a lot of interesting things out about them, so I'll add a little tidbits to my prelude here. They're a hard psychedelic blues, politically charged band. They were at their heyday during the Vietnam War, even though they were from Canada. Canadians had their own view on Vietnam, and a lot of Americans escaped to Canada so that they wouldn't have to be drafted. Um, they actually were a band, one of the few bands that was able to straddle between pop-oriented AM and more underground hip FM type music and audiences, I should say. Um, a little bit about the lead singer, John Kay. He was born in East Prussia. He was born in 1945, and his dad passed away right before he was born. But right after the war, his mom took him and his siblings in the middle of the night and escaped to West Germany. I found that very interesting. But he was influenced by Armed Forces radio, and Little Richard was one of his biggest influences. And I just used Little Richard in my top 5 pianists just last week. So I found that interesting. Um, After living in Germany for a while, they moved to Toronto in late 50s. Ironically, I don't know if you knew this, Mark, but 5 years later, they actually moved to Buffalo. So
No.
his family lived in
Huh.
Buffalo like in 1963. He ended up going back to Toronto and meeting up with a couple of friends and then joining the already formed the Sparrows. And
Okay.
that's the band they started in. Then the Sparrows went out to LA, and that's where they picked up a couple other bandmates and changed their
Yeah,
name
a couple
to
stragglers
Steppenwolf. Yeah.
out of like a record store and a
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember.
yeah, like a record store and a music shop, I think, right? They
Yeah,
just
yeah,
grabbed them.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so he not only sings vocals, he plays instruments. And one of the interesting instruments, Mark, what is the real name of a juice harp?
You
Okay.
got me.
It's also called a mouth harp,
Okay.
harmonica.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Which goes
Um,
along with our oral theme tonight. Awesome.
yes, it actually does. And I actually have a real juice harp. It doesn't look like a harmonica. Maybe I'll bring it on a show one time and show you how I can play it. It's my grandpa's.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and he's from Canada, so
Bruce Willis night. We'll do it.
yes. And John Kay is also totally colorblind, black and white. That's all he
Oh,
can see. That's why he wears sunglasses a lot because it's distracting to him to have flashing lights and that because he starts to make out some distinction between what he would normally see and it throws him off. It's very
okay.
interesting. I don't know. I've heard of people being colorblind red and green, but not totally colorblind. So anyways, when they were in Yorkville, that's where they were really into the music scene, and he called it musical gumbo. And
Oh,
so they sold as a band over 25 million records. Their songs have been licensed in over 50 motion pictures. 2016, they were nominated to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the 2017 induction and did not make it.
oh,
However, they Born to Be Wild was one of the first five singles to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as standalone inductees aside from the band itself.
right.
And so this album is the second. It was released in 1968. It was straight off of their debut self-titled album. And they have a few hits off of that album. Um, Magic Carpet Ride is just everybody knows that song. You might not know it's Steppenwolf, but most people would, I think, if they're a little bit older. That song only made it to number three. I would have thought it was a number one song. I can remember my first house party in college. They were playing this album. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so I will not ever forget that. I probably forgot it later in the night, but
I'm sure
as
somebody tried to play it in reverse too.
true. On that album is also Born to Be Wild, the anthem for counterculture. And it was part of the cult film Easy Rider.
Mm,
So a lot of anti-establishment people really resonated with that song. There's other really Southern blues type songs on this album, Don't Step on the Grass and Tighten Up Your Wig. Interesting enough, he had to admittedly give credit that it's totally stolen from Junior Wells's Messin' with the Kid. I didn't
uh,
listen to that song, but he admits he stole it. Obviously, Junior was dead. And
right.
so, what were they going to do about that? But you'll
Well, the
hear a lot.
Stones did all kinds of that, so hey, it's okay.
They all did. I mean,
Led Zeppelin.
yep,
Taking
yep,
people's
they
songs,
did.
changing them up later. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, exactly. So, and that, hopefully is a tribute to how great those musicians were. There's a
Right.
lot of Grateful Dead grooves in here. You can kind of feel that, and you get some Doors keyboards. There's one of the songs you hear a bunch of banter in the back, almost like the Beatles talking amongst themselves, in some of their recordings. You hear
Okay.
them kind of bantering. I really like it. I hadn't listened to this in a very long time, but I do know every song. So it's obviously been something that I've gone back to over the years. I maybe hear one of the songs and I go, hey, I need to listen to that again. So I think the fans out there, I know you know Steppenwolf, but if you don't know this album, you should listen to it front to back.
Most people would probably think they're not Canadian. I would assume that for sure. At least 75% or more would be like, oh yeah, Steppenwolf, yeah, they're
Well,
Canadian.
especially since their
Half
name
and
was
half,
taken. Yeah,
half and
yeah,
half.
they are half and half. I was going to say it's a little stretch or liberal to say that they're a Canadian band, but that's where they met and that's where they started. And Steppenwolf is a German it's a novel by a German writer. So I mean that comes from his background from Germany, obviously. I think one of the other guys in the band was German as well, but I think they're dead. I
No,
don't know. I
well,
don't know the
I,
other guys.
Steppenwolf was also a villain in DC Comics, I believe, too.
Oh,
But I'm sure that came later.
I think so. What came
You
first?
think?
So that was my album from the Leaf.
Awesome pick. Awesome pick. Well, now we'll go to the woman who's you know, ready to go.
Okay. All right. So I'm a little discombobulated down here in the bat cave. So feeling a little bit out of my element, more so than normal. Um, I try, so just so you know, I always have to try to find a band. I try to find a band that maybe Mark isn't aware of or doesn't know about. And I don't want to be offensive to Canadian bands, but I tried. Like there were a few, and I'm just like, no, no, no. Surprisingly. So then I came across this one, and I don't know if he's heard of it or not. He probably has every CD, but I'm going with it because it's just the mood I've been in, and I actually really love it. And so it's kind of new to me too. So I'm just discovering it and finding out about it. And hopefully I actually didn't see them in the 90s and my brain just shut down. Well, actually,
Ruh-roh.
no, actually they came about in the
Dementia.
2000s.
Okay.
So,
All right.
but anyway, I guess they are not wolves, but they are the sheepdogs.
You've heard of the
Oh, look at that.
sheepdogs?
Look,
Yep.
the sheep, you know the
I know the
sheepdogs.
sheepdogs. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Where have
and
you
just in
been,
case,
Sue?
Well, no,
do you need me to pull it out?
no, no.
Oh. What?
Oh, don't pull it out.
Wait a second.
This is not a family show, kids.
Again, we're trying to get to 70 subscribers. Better get there quick.
Okay, well,
Yes, the sheepdogs.
you
But what
could-
album? But
said I don't know.
but what
I've never
album?
heard of them
What
before.
what album?
So I went with the Sheepdogs live at Lee's.
Okay, don't have it.
So Lee's is Lee's Palace in Toronto. This was probably, well, it's one of their later albums. I believe it came out in 2022. They worked on it in 2021, like right after the pandemic. Ahead of the pandemic, they were supposed to head out on tour with the Black Keys. They were supposed to do a Canadian tour. They've actually been all over the world and they played with a lot of people um how to describe them. Well, okay, I'm gonna read to you a little bit, but they formed in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in
Ooh.
2004. Um they were the first unsigned band to make the cover of Rolling Stone and pretty much went on to an incredible, well, they went on to an incredible career and scored a Juno Award. I want to say in 2012, but I could be wrong there.
No, I think so.
Their frontman, Ewan Curry, who is the band's primary songwriter, has described them as Deb. Well, blues rock style is pure, simple, good time music. He says they aim to land in the sweet spot between Led Zeppelin, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and they've also credited Creedence Clearwater Revival, Stevie Wonder, the Beatles, the Allman Brothers as being influences. And if you listen, you can kind of hear it all. They're how do I say this? They're a really solid rock band. I think I saw one of the sites labeled them as country rock, but I don't know if I'd go with that.
Nah.
No.
It's just a really comfortable, cozy kind of rock that you would have gone out to a bar and watched and been like, they're really awesome. They have a really great sound. The songs they're good jams. They're well written. I love this album in particular because you can hear the crowd in the background cheering, which is kind of cool. I think they recorded it over 4 nights of sold out shows at Lee's Palace in Toronto, which is really cool. That would have been fun to have gone to.
Can't remember. Have we ever seen a show at Lee's Palace?
I don't believe
I don't believe so.
I've never been there.
Still under the Warner label. So just a really good album, all strong songs. It's a fun album. I don't know if there's anything glaringly Canadian about it. Just a really strong band, and the fact that have I ever listened to them before?
No, I know. I probably not because I got the first album I just showed Sue out of the library. because
Really?
their second album had gone out, and I did some sort of review on it or talked about it or whatever, and
Mhm.
it was, this is Southern rock, in
Yeah.
Canadian style, which is
Right.
sometimes subdued, sometimes not jangly, maybe
Mhm.
some
Really?
jangle pop kind of. Um, I would,
How about-
yeah.
So apparently in 2022, thereabouts, they did lose their keyboardist. He decided to part, nothing like, you know, dramatic or awful. I think he just departed ways to pursue other things in his life. And I think they went back on tour, but I'm not quite sure. So, if they're still out there, they're well worth the time to go see live. But also, if you haven't heard of them, this is a really fun record to start with, and I'm probably gonna go and see what else they've got. So, the
Cool.
sheepdog.
Let's go see
This,
them if they come
this
here.
would be along the lines
Good.
of Glorious Sons,
Yep.
that kind of thing. There's another band. They had a bourbon glass as their head and heart, head to heart, head start, head, something like that. They were all in that vying for the next. Who's the next Tragically Hip? Who's the next
Got it.
arcade? Who's
Mhm.
next Arcade Fire? Who's the obviously those that neither of them are that kind of style, but that who's going to be the next big act in Canada? And they were on that list, and they opened for many of the popular Canadian bands, and now headline their own shows. And yeah, very well known. U.S. play, not a lot. They have played here in at the free, not the free ones, but the
The canal
in
side.
downtown Buffalo, Canal Side, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I was supposed to go. Did they play, were they opening for somebody?
Yeah, I think they might have been opening for somebody. I actually, if you ask Galaxy, would have been on here. It might have been either the Arkells or the Trues. I would
Maybe
think
the
if that was
Trues.
in Will's house. I don't know,
Yeah.
but that would make sense.
Yeah,
Who
good
knows?
ones too.
Really good band. I was, it
Yeah.
was, yeah.
I
Thank,
kind of
thank God.
I kind of dismissed the first album. You know why? Because really, what it was to me is like this is not going to be something you haven't heard. You know, what I mean, there's not, it's done well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. They're not putting their own stamp on it. That's something I'm going to talk about in my next one.
But they do have, you know, I think I would recognize them now going forward.
Yeah.
And they also, I'm not going to read through the entire thing, but they have a really interesting story. If you ever, want to go back and read about them, how they formed, it seems very organic. And so that's kind of cool too. But
Cool.
yeah.
Nice.
All right. All right. So I'm sure in the music multiverse, there's not too many people who have not heard Sunglasses at Night or the love ballad Never Surrender, which got massive rebirth just recently during COVID when it was re-released, obviously under different pretenses. This young Canadian is a fantastic songwriter. He's up there with pop's best in Canada. Hell, Eric Clapton even recorded with him on the debut. But I have a special place in my heart for the album I think has the best songwriting from start to finish. And the first with a bit more genre freedom, because let's face it, at the beginning, Corey Hart was a pop artist. But in this album, Young Man Running, Corey Hart kind of drops some of the pop and lets it go away. Young Man Running is the fourth studio record. It was released in 1988. It charted in the US actually at 121, which basically that's a pretty good feat considering his popularity had sort of remained in another area, which I'll talk about later. Generated other hits like In Your Soul, which I think got to like number 38 in Canada as a single or somewhere around there. It would be his fourth straight album of the year nomination. This one coming again from the ADISQ, which is a Quebec, arts and entertainment, which he's already won. He had already won twice for his solo first debut record and for his second record. So all songs are written by Corey Hart. And if you go down it, I mean, every In Your Soul was, basically Ruby Turner. If nobody knows who she is, she's a soul singer, Jamaican, has a beautiful voice. She plays on both In Your Soul and Spot You in a Coal Mine. So while we have the ballad that Corey Hart is famous for on a lot of this record, there's still other things like Spot You in a Coal Mine, which is basically a rockabilly stint. Lone Wolf, which is his rock pop harder stuff. No Love Lost, which is a mood soul piece. And then Crossroad Caravan, which is an indie rock ballad, but he's doing it with mandolin and piano. In
No.
fact, there's even a bonus track on the Japanese album that I never heard until today when I was going back to the record. It's called 21. It's a tad bit dated, maybe, but I'll tell you why there's a special for the Japanese version. He was huge in Japan, in the Philippines. He sold out the Budokan multiple times, huge stadiums over there. He's a handsome man, okay? And maybe that had something on top of it, but I'll digress to something else. In fact, I will go as far as to say that, like Sting, Phil Collins, and Peter Gabriel, there's a distinction in his voice that sets him apart and makes him extremely recognizable, and the commitment and belief in the songs is very, very evident. I believe of any pop singer and songwriter in Canadian history, despite the record sales achieved in the US during the 80s, which were only singles, he is still underappreciated. He's an instrumentalist. He plays the guitar, keyboard, drum. You would have never known any of that when you saw videos.
Nope.
It's always him at the microphone. And I believe that might be one of the reasons that the 90s became an issue. If he would have been at the helm of the guitar or the piano and writing and doing those things and be seen that way, everybody else in those era, they were all with a guitar in their hand on stage. Was Corey Hart going to start to be grungy? Pretty much not. I mean, Bang, which was the follow-up, is about as hard as it got after that. So I've always had a special place in my heart for that particular song and that album, Spot You in a Coal Mine and the Crossroad Caravan. It's a really unique record. And if you are into, I mean, it runs the contemporary line, adult contemporary. It's not going to offend anybody, but it's beautiful pieces, and he stands alone vocally in Canada as a male pop artist.
Nice.
Any comments?
Well, he was on my potential list, but I thought, no, I'm gonna go outside the box because Mark already knows Corey Hart. So, but I think while I was looking into him, I want to say I think he and his family now live in the Bahamas. I think they moved
really?
there. Yeah.
Nice. I would
I
too.
don't know if they had family there or what, but and it could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's where they.
He was huge. What was that? Wasn't much? No, was it Much Music? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like Much Music. He was on there all the time, man. He was
Much Music, yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't say where they moved to. Well, there's a lot to read. He is a huge bio.
I have his address if anybody would like it.
Oh, he's picking me up at the airport. I leave now.
There's YouTube videos too of him playing live. He sings some 2 languages, French and English. So. Anyway, I'll thank my panelists for joining us tonight. Maybe tonight we'll move to 70. We'll do this again in 2 weeks. Hopefully Jeff won't be attacked by dogs or anything of that nature and be able to join us this time out. Please like and comment. Let us know how we're doing. Tell your friends. We'd love for you to subscribe. Again, remember to get us over that number we're at. Check out our other programs like the Daily Album for Today, which today featured Suicidal Tendencies, Freedom. Don't miss Album Listen Challenge this Thursday. We got the young ones going at it, Alex and Everett. I won't tell you the albums because then it will spoil the surprise. Obviously, Album Review Saturdays, which Deb has joined me twice. Maybe we'll get a hat trick. Unknown Sundays this Sunday. I'm going to be joined by the Grateful Dude, maybe Jeff Young as well, but we're going to do Bad English. So go beyond your
Nice.
radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. Thank you for watching. And as always, happy listening.
Bye.